WNBA Finals. And so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments. And so all I'll say is just, it's obviously...
They promised her unprecedented money. They placed a $1 million salary on the table, believing it would be enough to quiet critics and secure the future of the league. It was meant to be the moment the WNBA finally broke through, the moment the new era was locked in with ink on a contract. But Caitlin Clark and the entire Players Association did the unimaginable. They refused. They didn't pause. They didn't negotiate. They walked away from the table entirely. And now the fallout from that rejection has reportedly taken down its most powerful figure yet. We're hearing rumblings from league headquarters that Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is officially out. The rejection of this new CBA proposal wasn't just a bargaining tactic. It was a declaration of no confidence that shattered the WNBA's leadership foundation. The league believed a paycheck could buy harmony, but they completely misread the movement growing inside their own locker rooms. To understand why the commissioner is allegedly packing her office and why this specific rejection became the breaking point, you need to examine the offer that was just turned down. Sources say the league finally bent and proposed a structure where top stars could make more than $1 million a year through salary and bonuses. To a casual observer, that sounds like a massive victory. It's a huge leap from the tiny salaries players earned just a few seasons ago when the max hovered around $200,000. It was supposed to be the golden pass that protected the 2026 season and avoided a labor crisis, but the players, led by the heavy leverage of stars like Clark, Reese, and Stewart, walked away anyway. Why? Because they understand that $1 million is crumbs compared to the billions the league is projected to generate. You have to look at the numbers the players are studying. The WNBA recently signed a historic media rights deal worth more than $2 billion over the next decade. That is transformational wealth. That is the kind of money that shifts generations. When the league arrived with a $1 million salary ceiling for its biggest stars, the union immediately saw the trap. The owners wanted to freeze player pay while keeping all the massive upside for themselves. The players don't want a slightly bigger allowance. They want a legitimate share of the revenue. They want percentages of jerseys, tickets, streaming rights, and advertising. By rejecting this offer, they didn't just decline a contract. They rejected the entire economic model that Cathy Engelbert built her legacy on. That refusal appears to be the final breaking point for Engelbert. Her time as commissioner has been defined by an exhausting attempt to balance the old WNBA with the explosive arrival of the new era. For 2 years she's walked a razor-thin tightrope, and she has finally lost her footing. To understand why she's reportedly stepping down, you have to revisit the chaos of last season. It was a PR disaster from beginning to end. It began with travel issues that forced players onto commercial flights while charter travel was handed out selectively. Then came the prioritization rule that forced athletes to choose between the WNBA and lucrative overseas contracts, effectively removing money from their pockets. But the real damage was done publicly. Remember the interview that shifted everything? The one on CNBC, where Engelbert was questioned about the dark side of the new surge in fans, the racism, the online abuse, the toxicity directed at players. Instead of defending her athletes, instead of drawing a firm line against the hate, she defaulted into a corporate talking point about rivalries and marketing. She compared it to the Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird era. It was a disaster. The players were furious. They felt unprotected. They felt like the Commissioner viewed their pain as nothing more than a marketing tool. The union released a statement questioning her leadership back then, but she survived. She survived because owners believed she could still deliver financially. But now she has failed to deliver financially. The owners hired Kathy Engelbert from Deloitte. She was a corporate machine, a numbers expert. Her mission was to scale the business. And yes, the league's valuation has skyrocketed. But a commissioner has two responsibilities: please the owners and earn the respect of the players. She completely failed to connect with the athletes who are the soul of the business. You cannot run a league if the players do not trust you. When the players publicly humiliated the league by walking away from the richest deal ever offered, it proved Engelbert had lost all authority. The owners realized that as long as Engelbert remained in charge, the players would not sign anything. She had become the symbol of the old, slow, tone-deaf version of the WNBA. Now the internet is exploding with reports that she has resigned, while the league attempts to contain the story with vague statements about ongoing conversations. Insiders say this was not her decision. Sources claim the board of governors, the owners, are terrified of a lockout. They understand the stakes. They know that without Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and other stars on the floor in 2026, revenue collapses. The momentum the WNBA has created is delicate. If they lose even part of a season, they may never get this moment back. If the only obstacle between a signed CBA and a catastrophic lockout is the commissioner, then the commissioner must go. Publicly, it will be framed as mutual. You'll see scripted lines thanking her for service, crediting her for growth, and wishing her well. But let's be honest, this is a forced exit. The timing is too perfect. The CBA rejection happened. Panic spread, and now the leader is gone. The players implicitly demanded a leadership change, and it appears they finally got it. This is an enormous victory for the Players Association. It proves that they understand their leverage and are not afraid to use it. They know the product on the court is everything. Without them, the executives have nothing to sell. This moment proves the power structure in women's basketball has flipped. For years, the WNBA acted like it was doing women a favor by giving them a league. Salaries were tiny, travel was brutal, and marketing was minimal. Players were expected to be grateful. But the Clark effect destroyed that mindset. When Caitlin Clark entered the league, she brought millions of new fans. Ticket prices skyrocketed. Arenas sold out. Merchandise exploded. Players suddenly realized they were generating the revenue, yet were still being treated like second-class citizens. Another massive factor, likely pushing Engelbert out, is Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league, founded by Breanna Stewart and Nafessa Collier. This isn't a side project. It is a direct threat to the WNBA's monopoly. Unrivaled is offering players equity, six-figure pay for a few weeks of work, and a player-centered ecosystem. It gave players a real alternative. Suddenly, the WNBA was no longer the only option. If the league didn't pay up, stars could go to Miami, play for Unrivaled, collect their checks, and leave the WNBA scrambling. Engelbert tried to play hardball. Long after the league lost its leverage, she failed to respect the power of a unified player base. The players didn't just ask for a bigger slice. They built an entirely new bakery. This cornered the WNBA. They had to offer the world to keep their stars. And when players still rejected a $1 million offer, owners realized they needed a different negotiator, someone the players trusted, someone who understood the new era of athlete empowerment. The mainstream media is already spinning it, calling players greedy for turning down $1 million. You'll see Headlines asking whether it's too much, too soon.
Don't fall for it.
This isn't greed.
It's
Basic math. When the league signs deals worth hundreds of millions and players receive a tiny fraction, asking for fairness isn't greed. NBA players receive about 50% of basketball revenue. WNBA players have historically received very little. They aren't asking for money that doesn't exist. They're asking for money they generated. The greedy athlete narrative is a tired tactic used during labor disputes.
but this
generation of fans sees the truth. They see the sold-out games. They see TV ratings beating NBA broadcasts. They know the money is real.
the
Rejection of the deal exposed how much revenue the league was still keeping for itself.
and for
Better or worse, Engelbert was the face of that. What comes next? If she is truly out, the league enters a leadership crisis at the worst time possible. They must find a commissioner quickly, someone who can bridge a divide that feels impossible. A lockout is looming. If a deal isn't completed soon, the 2026 season is in jeopardy. Imagine canceling a season right after the biggest surge in league history. It would be suicidal for the business. But the players have shown they're willing to hold out.
they've saved.
Money. They have endorsements.
They have.
Alternatives. The owners are the ones who can't afford a shutdown. Their arenas, contracts, and investments depend on the players. This is why removing Engelbert is a strategic reset. It allows owners to blame the stalled negotiations on her, bring in fresh leadership, and return to the union saying, "We listened.
Now,
Let's negotiate." It may be their only chance to save the 2026 season. And then there's Caitlin
Clark.
While she hasn't openly demanded Engelbert's removal, her silence is loud.
In
Today's sports landscape, superstars shape leadership. If Clark believed Engelbert was the right leader, she would have shown support.
the
Fact that she stands with the union speaks volumes. Clark isn't just a rookie, she's an economic powerhouse. And she just made her position clear. The other players are aligned as
well,
the Bet on Women slogan has become pay women. They're done with excuses about investment phases. When the money arrives, players expect the investment to reach them. Engelbert struggled to transition from survival mode to expansion mode. She was a strong peacetime commissioner, but a weak wartime one. So, where does this leave the league? If reports are accurate, the WNBA is entering a dangerous new era. A lockout looms. The commissioner is the first casualty, but not the last. Ownership could
shift.
the entire structure may change. The next few weeks will be crucial. We must watch who the owners nominate as commissioner. A former player would signal peace. Another corporate choice would signal war. We must also watch how the union responds. Celebration would confirm this was a takedown. Silence would mean the focus is purely business. The WNBA has outgrown its old identity. It is shedding its past, painfully but necessarily. Engelbert represented the previous chapter, a chapter built on survival, not partnership.
The
League no longer seeks validation. It demands
equity.
the players have evolved. The fans have
Evolved.
The marketplace has evolved. The only thing left behind was the leadership. This story is nowhere near over. As we wait for official statements, keep your eyes on Unrivaled, on overseas leagues, and on player movement.
The
Athletes are proving they have options now.
the
WNBA is fighting for relevance in a landscape it once dominated. Engelbert's exit is a symptom of a much larger issue: the league's resistance to truly viewing players as partners instead of employees. The real question is whether the WNBA is willing to evolve or whether it will collapse under the weight of outdated systems. We are watching history unfold in real time. The players have fired the first shot in a revolution that will reshape women's sports forever. The commissioner
Is gone. The deal is dead.
and the future is completely unwritten. Stay tuned because things will get much more chaotic before they get better.